guys, it's Lori. See, there it is again. We encountered an error sharing your broadcast on Twitter. Please try again. It does it every single time. So, anyway, I just got done listening to Amy Scope. I was giving her a hard time, giving her all the things to look forward to. Hey, Amanda. I'm sorry I haven't responded yet. I went to bed with a migraine yesterday, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Not about migraines, but about what causes me migraines, which is mental clutter. So let me give a few minutes. Hey, Angel, good to have you. Anyway, I tried earlier this morning to kind of do a walk into the good morning. And Emily, oh, glad you guys are here. Doxa Theos. That probably has a big, deep meaning, and I need to look it up. Yes, mental clutter. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about, probably because it's been one of the things that I've struggled the most with. So Amy was just talking about, and I don't really have a prepared outline or anything. I usually do a workshop on something like this, but I just wanted to talk because it was, shuts me down, completely shuts me down like it did yesterday. So glory to God. I love that. I love that. Yeah, and, in the Sistine Chapel, which if you have never been there, that should be on your bucket list. In the Sistine Chapel in Rome, in the Vatican, and I'm not Catholic, I just like to go there because their art is amazing. But I went into the Sistine Chapel, and there is a place in the corner where Michelangelo wrote Solo Deo Gloria, in theirs after he finished. That's how he signed it. You know how artists sign their things, and that was really cool to see. You almost have to, I've had, we take teenagers over there from Artios Academies. It's a great place to go after you've studied the ancient time period or medieval Renaissance time period. I'm trying to remember the name of it's amazing. So we take groups over there. We haven't been over for a couple years, but they've gone to Rome, they've gone to Austria when we were in the early modern for Mozart and all of that, and gone to see all the, things that were about that time period. So anyway, back to mental clutter. So here's what happened yesterday. I came to my office, my little tiny house. Someday it's going to be done. I really look forward to that day. And I came in and I did my Periscope. I did my social media for the day, which I'm thinking probably shouldn't be first thing. But anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. I think I'm going to rearrange some things. And then I had a meeting online with one of our Artios directors. And then when we were done, I started thinking about all these sort of things that I needed to do. Now, I don't know if you're like this, but I have ideas, good and bad, all the time, which is one reason why I'm really liking this bullet journal. But let's don't talk about planners yet, because if you saw my homeschool happy hour the other day, you'll know we've got to talk about this at a later date. But I've been just trying to put down all these ideas that I have, and they're coming pretty fast and furious right now because I'm entering a new stage of life, and I'm trying to be optimistic about it. So thanks for the hearts, guys. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, so I'm trying to think of all the things that I can do now that I couldn't do when I was homeschooling because I'm done, and things that John and I can do together, just the two of us, that we really couldn't do or wouldn't have been quite the same if we'd been doing it with 4 boys. And so I sat here, and oh my gosh, it was like ADHD. And I probably would have been labeled that in elementary school if they'd had a label. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I just have a lot of ideas and a lot of energy most of the time. So I sat here and I jumped from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. And I completely forgot to go according to something that I teach all the time, which is block scheduling. Now, mental clutter will slow me down. And basically what happened yesterday is by the time I hit about 1:30 in the afternoon, I had so overwhelmed myself with all my ideas and all the details to get those ideas done, etc., that I started. I had a headache. I mean, like a huge headache. So I ended up going to bed, and I actually periscoped. No, I didn't. I did Facebook Live to our private Facebook group yesterday. So one of the things that I learned, I didn't know anybody else did it, so that's kind of cool, Angel. Was to decide, Amy was just talking about the different areas that she wants to focus on this summer. So what I like to do is take those, decide 4 or 5 areas. There's a great book out right now that I would really suggest. I'm only about halfway through it, but it's called Living Forward. It's by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. And I love Michael Hyatt. I'm kind of a junkie. But because almost everything he says from a quote business related aspect can be applied to homeschooling. Those same principles, those same organizational skills, the same attitude, all of that stuff. So I love him. Plus I use his a lot of his suggestions with the end in mind and with Ardios. So he talks about in that book, and he also has been talking about this in some of his blogs in the past. He's amazing. I really like him. I really like him. So he had been talking about, and Amy Porterfield talks about, you cannot have a million goals in a million different areas. Talk about mental clutter. That will totally drive me crazy. I can't deal with it. So they said to figure out, 4 or 5 accounts, basic large accounts in your life that you want to focus on. You can do the same thing in your business, 4 or 5 large accounts. So we sat down and did that for Ardios and for the end in mind. And then we're sitting down to do it for ourselves personally. One of the largest accounts that I feel like I have to get under control is my health. You may or may not know it, but I had a stroke about 4 years ago. It wasn't caused by cholesterol or blockage or anything. Yes, 4 or 5 large accounts to work on. Thank you for doing this. And that stroke was caused by a condition I have in my carotid arteries and in my vertebral arteries. But so it wasn't anything that I had done wrong, but it did bring to my attention how many areas of my health that I had been ignoring. I'd put on some weight. I wasn't eating right, addicted to sugar, didn't drink enough water, didn't really exercise, etc., etc. So that was one of my accounts. So bottom line, what I should have done yesterday is think about each one of these things that were popping in my mind and decide whether or not they fit into one of those accounts, either from a business perspective or from a personal perspective. I'm so glad, because it makes me feel like I'm not the only crazy woman out there. Not that you're crazy, but and decide, okay, does this help me towards what I'm wanting to do in this particular area of my life, or is it going to distract me? You're crazy? Good. Well, you know what? And I'm okay with it. I really am okay with it. And if it doesn't, yeah, it is. It's a beast. Sugar addiction is a beast. And maybe someday I'll talk about how I'm trying to deal with that. And if it doesn't move me forward in one of those areas, and I put it on a list for later. In other words, I can't do 50,000 things at the same time. I can do 1,000,000. No, that would be more than 50,000. I didn't do well in math. I can do 10,000, but I can't do 50,000. So I put in, instead of thinking about and jumping from one thing to another, I should have stopped and evaluated and seen if those things really fit into what I was wanting to accomplish this year. And then if it did, then it went on a to-do list. Now, everybody was talking about checklists. Big general checklists don't work for me. And it works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for me because, again, I'll look at it and I'll jump from one thing to another. So what I do is I make a separate checklist for each one of those, quote, life accounts. And then I supposedly only work. Yesterday was a total disaster. I already told you about that. But then I only work on it if it fits when it comes up on my block schedule. So that way, when I have an idea, it doesn't distract me. It's like a closet. Oh, here's another good book, although it's kind of weird. Everybody talked about it and I got it and I just kind of got a weird feeling from it. But it's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And he talks about the analogy of a closet. I don't know how many of you have a really big closet. I do not. It's like a coat closet. And was just, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And so what I have to do is, he talks about a closet. And when you look at the closet, and if it's already stuffed and you bought something new, you, number one, either have to take something out to put something else in, or number two, you cram it in there and the closet becomes messy and a disaster and you can't find anything. Well, my natural way of doing things is not to take something out of my schedule so that I can put something else in, is to cram it in there until my schedule becomes a total disaster. And I've got more goals than I can ever achieve during a set time period. And it makes me feel distracted and it gives me anxiety, like I'm not accomplishing enough. And oh my, I'm so glad somebody can relate. So, and what that does is, so then every time I think of something, oh, I should have called so-and-so, or, oh, I should have done this. And then I stop what I'm doing and I go do that. And I do this bouncing around thing. So what I started doing a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, was setting aside blocks of time that matched my priorities, both personally and professionally. And then when I thought of something to do or something I'd forgotten in any one of those areas, I put, busy but never completing anything, I put it on the to-do list for that particular account area of my life. So that when I came to the time on schedule and it said, let me see what's here. It says the administrative meeting. This is when I meet with my virtual assistant and my administrative assistant every week. I know that sounds like hoity-toity or whatever, but I've waited almost 30 years to get it, and now I finally have it. So keep that in mind. If I think of something that needs to be done or talked about in that administrative meeting, I don't make an email about it right then. I put it on a list so that when the meeting comes around or when I'm working on the agenda for that meeting, I have it right there and I'm not bouncing around. Or I come up with a content idea, like, I want to do a Periscope on this, or, I want to do a Facebook Live on this, or, I need to write an article on this, or like my, is this revolutionary? I'm glad. For example, last night I had that big ta-da moment that I've been thinking about those videos that if you didn't hear about them, I put it on the private Facebook group. Yes, even with parenting. And you know what? The same principle applies when you're doing your homeschool scheduling. What do you want to accomplish? Put it in a block of time and then do it. Payday for hard work. Yes, it is. Huge. Lot of years. So, if I have an idea like I did for content creation last night, which is one of the bigger areas of focus this year as far as Artios and the end in mind, then instead of just stopping everything I'm doing and doing a video on Facebook, I should have put it on a list for the next time content creation was on there, or the next time that Facebook Live or Periscope was listed on there. That way, I didn't get distracted. You can do that for housekeeping. For example, I have Monday afternoons set aside for home. I hate housekeeping. What a waste of time. So anyway, I have a time set aside for home. So anything that I think of that needs to be done around the house as far as cleaning or whatever, that's my time. That's my time to do it. And so I don't stop and think, it's been a long time since I dusted, I need to do this. I do it during that particular time period. What happens if somebody has an orthodontist appointment or somebody gets sick? Guess what? That period, I don't try and, here's another one. It's on Friday afternoons as well. So I'll say, I've got another block of that coming up for Friday afternoon. What happens if both of them go away and I can't seem to use them? Guess what? I'm going to wait till the next week. I'm not going to try and squeeze it in, because if I try and squeeze it in, it's going to knock something else out. So yeah, I just do it in one day. I do too, or 2 days actually. Those things are set aside for home. That could be like a bunch of cooking. It could be cleaning or whatever, but those are my home blocks. And then I've got, you'll see that, I don't have anything on Sundays, nothing on Sundays, and I don't work on Saturdays either. Then for my health, I have the early morning set aside every morning like that. So that's a block that occurs because that's one of my top priorities, so it occurs a lot. So that's just some of the ways that I try and avoid being kind of schizophrenic and ADHD with what I have to do. Excuse me. So again, decide, 4 or 5 things, or even 2 or 3 things, depending on where you are in life. 2 or 3 things business-wise or homeschool-wise, and then 2 or 3 areas or 4 or 5 areas personally that you want to focus on. Prioritize them. Decide which ones are most important. Obviously, my time with my family is the most important to me. And and then create blocks of time in your schedule. Now, if you've got kids at home, it's a lot harder to do that than it is for me right now. Don't play catch up. It is like a dog yes, exactly. Just methodically keep moving forward. So I know that when the boys were younger, one time I had a high schooler, middle schooler, elementary schooler, and a preschooler. So I was really schizophrenic. I didn't know what stage of child rearing I was in. So one of the things that I did that worked really well for me was my work time either happened when they were napping, or when they were younger, or before they woke up in the morning, or good morning, Claudina, or I would stay up late, which that's not a good idea for me because I'm really crabby in the morning, or as they got older, when they were sent, we had met for school, and I had given them something to do, and it was going to take an hour or so, and I would send them off to work on that, and then that would be some time for me to either have my private quiet time or time to work on something, because I have worked from home, I don't think without exception, I don't think for the 30 years that we've been parenting, and I don't regret it. One of the things that we taught the boys early on is there are certain times when, that mom is always available, but there are certain times when mom has some other things to get done, and to respect that time. And that was really helpful. So I early on taught them how to do their lunch, and et cetera, how to cook breakfast, and their wives now thank me for that. So, or I would assign them chores, and they would do the chores that, like vacuuming or dusting or the bathrooms. And then that would be my time to work. So we kind of made it a team event to make sure that everybody was getting done what they needed to do, them included. So these blocks of time, and then making to-do lists for each particular block of time that is dedicated to a specific priority area in your life, really helps with mental clutter. And I'm going to try and heed my own advice today. I got up earlier than everybody else. Everybody else is taking today kind of as a holiday. And those are great days for me, because then I can just kind of go, oh, everybody's doing their own thing. I can sit here, I can journal, I can clean my head out. And so after yesterday's fiasco of not taking my own advice, I'm going to do that this morning and work on that. This schedule that I use, I make one for first semester. Yeah, aren't they amazing? Give them yeah, absolutely. Give them a chance. Yeah, you know what? It is so true. So much going on in your head. So find a place to write it down. Find out what areas are most important for you and set aside times to do that. And then don't worry about it the rest of the time. It's like life-changing. Life-changing. So, I forget what else I was going to say. Oh, so this is my summer 2016 ideal week schedule, a Michael Hyatt idea. I had one for first semester and I had one for second semester so that I could flex with whatever was going on, for that particular section of time. It's not quite quarterly, but it was semester, summer. And then, again, this is an ideal week. So if everything were to go perfectly, this is what I would follow. But you and I know that it is weeks are few and far between that follow an ideal schedule. But at least it gives me categories. It gives me places in my closet to put the ideas, to put my to-dos, to know that I'm going to have time set aside for a particular area that keeps swirling around in my mind. So I don't know if that helps you or not. I did a whole webinar on this back in early February. It was called Goals in Concrete, Plans in Sand, which I love that because my goals are always going to stay the same, for a period of time, but the plans on how to get it accomplished are going to change in order to meet the needs of what's going on in my life each week, each day, etc. So watch for that. I think we're going to put it up on the site. Hey, Emily. Oh, I'm glad you like that. It was a saying I heard somewhere, and I don't know who it was, and I've said it probably a million times, so now I say it. It's mine. So I'm going to put, what's mind-blowing? Goals in concrete, plans in sand. Oh, so we're going to try and put that webinar up on the website, the endinmind.net website, as an evergreen webinar, which means it's always going to be there for you to be able to go and listen to it. And then at the end, I talk about a course that I have about intentional time management for everyday moms. And but the webinar itself is just so jam-packed with information. It is worth your time, whether or not you care about a course in it or whatever. So watch for that. And if you haven't joined our, the newsletter for the End in Mind, please do that. Or go to the Facebook page, The End in Mind. And remember, there's a secret Facebook community. And last night, I let them in on a project that I've been thinking about and asked them for their input. And that is on a private Facebook page called The End in Mind Community. And you can go to that Facebook page and you can ask to join, and you will find a really interactive group that's just getting started, and we'd love to have you be a part of that. I'm much more active on that page than I am on the general End in Mind page, so I'm available to answer questions, and all of us are sharing experiences and ideas about homeschooling and about living life intentionally in general. So I hope that was helpful. I kind of needed to do it for myself this morning because yesterday was such a disaster. So today's going to be a great day. Oh, good. I'm glad you'll check it out. And then on the website, watch for that webinar to go on there. It's been a huge stumbling block for me in being flexible. I'm either too rigid or not. Yep. And this is kind of a happy medium. It gives you a schedule. It gives you some accountability, but it also gives you the flexibility that you need as a wife and mother to be able to flex with the needs of your family. And sometimes, I'm kind of artsy. Sometimes to flex with, what state of mind I'm in on a particular day. So as long as everything in the week kind of gets its time, I'm doing well. So, okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. I don't know. I might hop back on later today. I don't know. I'm not sure. So, but thank you so much. And feel free to share this with anybody that you know that's like me, that's dealing with mental clutter. Talk to you later.